Hey everyone, it's John with KGTropicals. It's Sunday, August 11th, 2013. Welcome to this edition of Tank Talk. I got a really good topic of the day to talk to you about today, but before I get started with that, I have to address something that has become a pretty significant problem for Lisa and I, and I'm going to ask you for your help to stop this from happening so that it doesn't continue to be a problem. And that is our phone line. All right, now there's going to be people that are going to listen to this and they're going to think I'm a jerk, and I can tell you right now who some of those people are, but I don't care, because this has to be said because it's become a big problem. People are calling our business phone line that they get off of our website every day to ask us questions about my YouTube videos. They ask us questions from where do we buy our egg tumblers, how do we do this, what are we using to filter our system, what kind of pumps do we use? Questions that are directly connected to YouTube videos. And that is not what our telephone is for. That telephone line is for our customers to inquire about orders, to ask what we have in stock, maybe ask what time we close if they're coming out to the store. It's not an informational hotline for our YouTube videos. So I ask you, please, keep that telephone line open for our customers. We are putting this information out on YouTube to help everybody, not just our customers. But we can't answer the phone all day long for people that want to know a kind of a fish that they saw on our YouTube video. They don't want to buy one from us. They just want to know what that fish was because they saw it on our video. Now this all came to a head because of something that we had happen earlier this week, and it just set me over the edge, and I figured it's something that I have to talk about on this episode. And that is, a few days ago, I stepped out of the shop for a minute, and of course, as soon as I leave, customers come in the store, and Lisa's helping those customers, and the phone rings. And she excuses herself from those customers and goes over and answers the phone. The guy that is on the other end of the phone says to her, yeah, I just ordered 20 fish, and I want to ask a few questions about keeping those fish if I could. He begins to ask her every question in the world and hijacks her on the phone for about 10 minutes. Meanwhile, the customers leave the store. Now, I don't know if they were just browsing. I don't know if they were getting ready to spend $300 on fish. I don't know. And we won't know because they left the store because Lisa couldn't get to them because she was on the phone with this guy. Then, after keeping her on the phone for 10 minutes, he reveals to her, oh, and by the way, I would have loved to have bought these fish from you, but you didn't have all the fish I was looking for. So this guy, and if you're watching this video, you know who you are. This guy emailed back and forth with me for several days, ordered up a bunch of fish from somebody else, which, hey, I get that. I mean, sometimes we don't have everything you're looking for. I ain't mad at you for ordering fish from somebody else. But then he called us to get advice on how to keep those fish. That's dirty, folks. That's just wrong. Why wouldn't you call the person you bought the fish from? Now, I understand I seem like in these videos that I'm very approachable and I'm open to you, and I am, but not on that telephone line. We lost 2 customers in the store that day because you hijacked her on that phone for 10 minutes, asking her about questions about fish that you bought from somebody else. It's wrong. So I don't think it's wrong to buy fish from somebody else. I mean, come on, this is business. But to then call us to ask us questions about it, and let me just say it from this angle too. If you bought fish from me and called somebody else for advice on them, I'd be pretty insulted by that too. So either way you go, nothing good could have come out of this telephone call. If you're gonna buy fish from anybody, it should be that person that you go to get advice on how to keep those fish, not some bald guy that you see on YouTube. Now, that's not me saying I won't answer your questions. I'll answer them all, but please, do it through YouTube or do it through email. You can email me all day long. I'm not going to lose a customer because I'm answering an email. I'll wait until that customer leaves the store and then I'll come back and answer your email. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying don't ask me questions, but what I am saying is please don't call our phone line to ask us questions about YouTube videos. All right, that's enough of my rant. I know you're mad at me now. I know I sound like a jerk, but again, put yourself in my shoes and you'll understand completely what I'm talking about. So, now, let's move on to the topic of the day. Okay, so the topic of the day today is controlling ick. Now you notice I said controlling ick, I didn't say killing it. You'll understand that more as we go on. But to truly get to the bottom of ick, we've got to understand a few things. We've got to understand what is it, how do your fish get it, how do you control it, and how do you prevent it. And we're going to cover all of those things, hopefully quickly, in this video. So let's get right into it, because ick is a serious problem. It's something that you should definitely take seriously, and you should definitely be prepared to react if something happens. So what is it? Ick is a parasite. It's a parasite that is present in every single aquarium. I have ick in this aquarium. What? Yes, everybody does. You do too. I don't care how clean your tank is, it's there. It's just being controlled by your fish's immune system. It's being controlled because your fish are happy, they're healthy, they're well fed, everything's okay. So, but it's there. It's a parasite that is there, that when it manifests itself, it can take over very fast. So it's something that you should definitely take seriously. So, how do your fish get it? There's a couple of different things that can cause ick in your fish, but the primary reason is stress. Stress can come from a lot of different angles. It can come from being transported, it can come from aggression, it can come from poor water conditions. So all of that centers around stress. All of those things can cause your fish to be stressed out, and when they're stressed, they become vulnerable to this parasite. So how do you know that they've got it? How do you know, how does it manifest itself in the fish? Well, there's a lot of people that call this disease white spot disease. The first thing that you might see is white spots, white pimples, white little fuzzy spots on your fish. When you see those, it's absolutely time to react, and we'll get into that in a second. But there's also, you know your fish's behavior. So when your fish isn't acting right, when they're sluggish or they're lethargic or they're not eating properly or they're just kind of hanging out down at the bottom or something like that, again, it's time to react, because you might not see the spots, but you still could have the problem. It just hasn't manifested itself on the exterior of the fish yet. So be looking for lethargic behavior, maybe not eating, hiding in the corner somewhere, not acting right, and be looking for the white spots. And if you see those, then it's time to react. So how do we do that? Okay, so we've seen the white spots, we see the fish isn't acting right, it's time to react. What do we do? Well, let's get into the life cycle of this parasite before we talk about how to control it. Because if you understand what that is, it makes it a little easier to understand how to control it. So the life cycle of ick is pretty simple. It manifests itself with the little white dots on your fish. Those white dots are actually going to turn into fuzzy little white pods that are on the exterior of your fish. Those white pods are going to fall off of your fish. When they do, thousands of parasites are going to then be released into your aquarium, and that's how this parasite spreads. Not from contact with other fish, but by these pods falling off and releasing into the aquarium. So we want to shorten that cycle. We want to dramatically shorten the whole thing. How do we do that? The very first thing you should do, as soon as you think that this is a problem, crank that heater up. I'm not saying cook your fish, but crank your heat up to as high as you think your fish can take. If you're keeping Africans, you can go 87, 88 degrees and they'll be fine. And that is the first thing that's going to drastically decrease the life cycle of ick. The second thing we're going to want to do, and you're going to need to check your fish first to make sure that your fish are okay for salt, but put salt in the aquarium. A heavier dose than what you would normally do, because we're at this point using salt as an elixir, as a medication, not just to buffer the pH of your tank. So with Africans, throw some salt in there. Some of your fish, your eels, some of your catfish, scaleless fish, might not do well with salt. So definitely check that out first. But we're mostly talking about Africans. So with Africans, put a heavier dose of salt in there, turn the temperature up. Now, in our experience, 99% of the time, that's going to control this problem. It's as simple as that. Temperature going way up and salt. Now, one of the things that I have to mention before I go any farther is so many people ask me, I think I might have a fish that has ick. Should I quarantine that fish? The answer is no. Don't do that. If you think that there might be ick present in your tank, go ahead and assume that it's present in the whole tank. It's not just limited to your one fish. So be on the safe side. You don't want to take your fish out, put it into a hospital tank, and ick really blows up in there, but then you realize, well, it's already spread in the other tank too. Now you have ick in 2 tanks. Don't do it. Treat your whole tank. I don't care how big it is, treat the whole thing. Crank that temperature up, put some salt in there. That should do the trick. And like I said, 99% of the time in here it does. But if it doesn't, it's time to move on to something maybe a little bit stronger. Now I've got a couple of products here. Everything on the camera's backwards. Got a couple of products here. You've seen these. They're at your stores. I think you can even buy these at Walmart. API products. These are the 2 better ones in my opinion. If you need to go to medications. But I always tell people do temperature first and salt, because the problem with these medications, they're very effective, but they contain either methylene blue or malachite green, which is an antifungal medication that turns your water a different color. Methylene blue will turn it blue, malachite green will turn your water green. Now that's not big of a deal, it's not that big of a deal, but if you have to put it in there for a long period of time, it can actually affect your aquarium decorations. It can affect your silicone. It can turn it blue or green. But we don't want that. Let's do the temperature and salt first before we go to this, because if we have to go to this, it's going to fix the ick. It's going to get it back under control, but it might actually do some damage to your tank. So these medications work really good, and they should be used, but in my opinion, they should be used as a last resort because of the effects that it can have on the tank, and 99% of the time, you can get rid of it by using heat and salt. So, let's talk about preventing ick so that we don't have to deal with it to begin with. Okay, so how do we prevent it? How do we make sure that this isn't going to be a problem in our tank? Well, it's really very simple. We talked about it in the beginning, that stress is the #1 cause of ick. So let's keep your fish happy. How do you keep your fish happy? You keep them in clean water, you keep them well fed, and that's all you need to do. Keep your fish happy. You know how to do it. I'm not going to do a whole video on keeping your fish happy. It's common sense. Keep them healthy, keep them fed, keep the water clean. That's going to be your #1 way of controlling ick. And also, don't be afraid to keep your temperature up there. With our Africans, this tank right here is 84 degrees. Okay, now not all the tanks in here are that high, but in this one it is, because these are my babies and I take special care of them. But we keep this one at 84. I've never had ick happen in this tank. I've always been able to keep it under control. Like I said, it's there, but I've never had it happen because I baby this tank like I'm sure you do too. If you keep your tank clean, keep your fish well fed, it's not going to be a problem. But again, you know, you can't necessarily control a fish that just decides he's going to be mad one day and beat up everybody in the tank. So aggression is another thing that can cause them to be stressed out. Keep an eye on it. If you see fish going back and forth and you think there might be a problem with aggression, that problem could be much larger than just damage to the fish. It could stress it out to a point where it can be vulnerable to ick and end up spreading it and kill everybody. So aggression is something you're going to want to keep under control too. But we know how to keep these fish in particular with Africans, we know how to control aggression, so it shouldn't be a problem. And we're going to keep our water clean, we're going to keep them well fed, we're going to give them good food. You shouldn't have a problem with it. So I hope that this makes ick make a little bit more sense. I've had to do this in several different segments. You haven't seen me do that before editing it, but this was going to take a year and a half to make this video if I didn't do it that way. So I hope that didn't bother you too much, but ick is a big problem. It's something that you should absolutely take seriously. And in another video, maybe we'll talk about the whole thing people say, I'll never buy a fish from that particular store again because their fish have ick. I don't really agree with that. If it had ick, you wouldn't have bought it. But anyway, we won't get into that too far into this video. I hope you understand ick a little bit better. I hope that you understand that you're controlling ick. You're not going to kill it. It is a serious problem. Don't take it lightly. Be ready to react. That's a big thing. remember, we're shortening the life cycle. So we want to be able to start as soon as possible. Having things there that being ready to react is something that you're going to want to be prepared for. You're going to want to be prepared to react. That's what I meant to say. Have some salt. Have a bottle of that Super It Cure if you want. Just in case. So you don't put salt in there and realize, oh, it didn't work. Now I need to go to the store and buy some of that Super It Cure. No, have it already, just in case. Have it in your little cabinet under your tank along with your aquarium salt. And if you have a big tank, maybe keep a spare heater so that can help you to increase your water temperature. Because again, the sooner we start, the shorter we can make this thing, make the life cycle, and the faster our fish will be back to normal and we'll be all happy again. All right? So I hope you got something from this. I know I had to talk fast, but hopefully you have a better understanding of what ick is all about and how we can control it. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.